Hello guys, today at the White House briefing, Donald Trump said lots of the different stuff, but I wouldn't say it was complete bad for Ukraine. Yes, he mentioned lots of the crazy things, which we're gonna tell about in this video, but there was also the positive stuff. So it's the cut of his words, partial cut, where he says about Ukraine.
This is really a feel-out meeting, a little bit, and President Putin invited me to get involved. He wants to get involved. I believe he wants to get it over with. Now, I've said that a few times, and I've been disappointed because I'd have like a great call with him, and then missiles would be lobbed into Kiev or some other place. And
so he keeps like the previous idea that he keeps talking with Putin. So he's not deviating fully from that side, that Putin probably is using Donald Trump in his own favor. So it's not like 100% that Trump turned towards Russia. At least after this conference, I have this feeling, well, maybe you can call it a hope, but he was not like really anti-Ukrainian as he was. Then he went to the office during his first 2-3 months. Then he mocked Zelensky, telling that Zelensky is not popular. He has like 4% of the rating, and if Russia really wanted, they would occupy Ukraine. Here, rhetorics is a little bit different.
The money that's been spent and the death is incredible. It's the worst thing that's happened, by far the worst that's happened since World War II. So I'm going in to speak to Vladimir Putin, and I'm going to be telling him, you got to end this war, you got to end it.
Donald Trump has no authority over Putin. But here, at least, I see the sign that he is going to speak to Putin to end this war. So Donny understands that it is up to Vladimir Putin, who started this war, to finish it. Well, at least at the current stage. Maybe they're going to speak with Putin and Donald Trump will call Zelensky and tell Zelensky to stop the war. And he would agree with Putin's proposal because Donald Trump gets brainwashed really easily. That's the main downside of this meeting to happen in general.
And he wasn't going to mess with me. This war would have never happened.
Again, the same stuff. This war would have never happened. Okay.
I'm going to go and see the parameters. Now, I may leave and say, good luck, and that'll be the end. I may say this is not going to be settled. I mean,
yeah, he already saying it lots of the times, or said before lots of the times, that the United States is going to abandon this confrontation between Ukraine and Russia, which I think is a very stupid move from the United States of America, because after all, you should have values of democracy, of freedom. But Donald Trump, in his mind, he's very close to Putin. If not like Putin, he's just not using his military power directly, but he's using blackmail of the big American economy to push lots of the countries, neighboring country, Canada, applying some of the new tariffs, you may call, but actually those are sanctions. So Donald Trump, if he wanted, if it was his solo will, he would occupy Greenland, Mexico, Canada, and make all United States of America. The same imperialistic ideology which the Russian regime currently has. That's why Trump sees Putin, after all, as his some sort of the role model, because Trump likes this behavior, dictatorship, strong hand ruling. And because of that, he cannot find in his head the reason to support Ukraine. Like for him, it's just like some random country. He doesn't really care how the war could be finished. Even if Russia occupies Ukraine, it would be okay for Donny. Just, stop killing and he'll get his Nobel Prize. But if Russia occupies Ukraine, they'll provide so strong repressions and they'll erase Ukrainian identity finally. Because there were many attempts from the Russian Empire, from Soviet Union to erase this identity. They didn't make it, but now Putin actually could do it. They're even building the concentration camps in the southern part of Ukraine, especially for those Ukrainians who resist or who speak Ukrainian, or who identify as Ukrainians. But Donny doesn't understand anything of that. He's really far from this war. And the background, historical background as well, why it happened.
I mean, there are those that believe that Putin wanted all of Ukraine. I happen to be one of them, by the way.
Yeah. Apparently. Interesting, because why you are speaking in this case about the territory swapping, and here in this conference he said about the swapping of the Ukrainian territory. So you may swap everything you want, but finally the goal of Putin is to occupy Ukraine.
I think if it weren't for me, he would not be even talking to anybody else right now.
So again, if I was the president, blah, 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 Putin wouldn't, yeah.
I'm going to meet with him. We're going to see what the parameters are. I'm then going to call up President Zelensky and the European leaders right after the meeting, yeah. And I'm going to tell them what kind of a deal. I'm not going to make a deal. It's not up to me to make a deal. I'm going to meet with President Putin, and we're going to see what he has in mind. And if it's a fair deal, I'll reveal it to the European Union leaders and to the NATO leaders and also to President Zelensky. I think out of respect, I'll call him first. And then I'll call them after. And I may say, lots of luck, keep fighting. Or I may say we can make a deal.
There is no plan from Donald Trump's team, and there is no plan presented by Russia officially to the United States from what I understood. Yeah, they speak about wrong translation of the swapping of the territories, but de facto we're really far from any sort of the road map. So the question is why Trump wants to meet with Putin. It's the very bad decision because meeting of the two leaders, the highest rank officials of the countries, it should be the final moment to come out with some of the idea, the final solution, a decision, something. And here he says, okay, I'm just gonna speak with Putin to understand what he means about Ukraine. So Putin will tell him again the history of Russia down to the Kievskaya Rus thousands of years ago, like he told to Tucker Carlson in one of his interviews. So yeah, this meeting gives more pluses to Putin because Putin continues his aggressive action in Ukraine, and at the same time he is well received in Alaska, the ex-Russian territory which America bought before. By the way, during his conference, Donny said that I'm gonna travel to Russia to meet with Putin. Yeah, he said it, and everyone was laughing in the internet about it. Russian channels, my guys on Telegram too. So I already shared some of the cuts of this interview, the most funny moments on my Telegram, because this guy sometimes, or most of the time, he's just delusional.
Well, we're going to have a meeting with Vladimir Putin, and at the end of that meeting, probably in the first 2 minutes, I'll know exactly whether or not a deal can be made. Because that's what I do. I make deals. I expect to have a meeting with Putin that I think it'll be good, but it might be bad. And I'm here for one reason, to get rid of a war that somebody else started. Should have never happened. And if I could end it, great. Complex war, a lot of bad blood, But Zelensky's been there for 3.5 years. So if you put him in a room, now I will say this, ultimately I'm going to put the two of them in a room. I'll be there or I won't be there. And I think it'll get solved.
And this part I took from the different Ukrainian channel.
Because the tanks got stuck in the mud. Some commander made a better they would have been in Kiev in 4 hours going down the highway. But a Russian general made a brilliant decision to go through the farmland.
He speaks about the full-scale Russian intervention which happened in February 2022. So he says that the Russian mistake was to send the tanks through the farmland. Well, it seems like Ukrainian farm roads are the best in the world, judging on this image. You might have seen those images already. Oh my God, just imagine by the time if Ukraine had so many FPV drones as it has right now, yeah, those tanks would be absolutely devastated. But Ukraine by the time used artillery, some of the javelins as well. But still, Russia lost so many vehicles, and it was actually their mistake to use the highways. If they waited a little for better weather, used really the field roads, maybe they wouldn't stack in a big convoys right on the highways. Because Ukraine cut the bridges and Russians just grouped there in a big, long convoys. As I remember, there was the convoy 50 kilometers long, just imagine it. Russia really wanted to attack and take Kiev. Yeah, occasionally they also took the field roads and a few of the tanks stacked, but mainly they used just standard highways. And everyone knows about it, but Trump just saying some different stuff which shows that he is incompetent in this question at all.
Yes, I've seen a poll coming out of Ukraine. 88% of the people would like to see a deal made.
Yeah, I think I'm one of those 88%. Could be truth, really. Ukrainians really want to make the deal. but not the current deal which Putin proposed to Vitkov to give up their own territory just like that. I would say that those 88% would be against it, especially those people who live in Kramatorsk, Slavyansk, in those territories which Putin wants to occupy without any fight, actually, but using Donald Trump as his diplomatic weaponry. But making the deal, finishing the war at the current front line, I would say from the logic perspective, it is more or less fine for the majority of the Ukrainian population, because we understand that without the proper military support from our allies and United States of America, Ukrainians just simply cannot retake the ground using the military force. So if we speak about the liberation of the entire Ukrainian territory, it is, guys, only possible if there are some of the internal events, harsh events, would spark in Russia, and they could be connected with Putin's cancellation, the rise of the new Russian Prigozhin with a military coup, successful one, bad economy state of the Russian Federation, or some sort of the black swan that we don't know about yet. It's the only chance for Ukraine to return territories back, for Russia to have chaos inside, and that is how actually Ukraine even might use military force to go to Crimea, Donbass, and everywhere, because Russian forces would be just disorganized, out of control. So this is the only way out at the current stage with the limited Ukrainian military support. And yeah, you see what is happening on the front lines with my recent updates. The situation there is absolutely not good. So people there are smart. They understand that Ukraine cannot liberate territories right now. It's physically not possible. And Zelensky even told about it. But we need the deal. We need to press Russia, push Russia, apply more sanctions for it to stop. Plus, we need the security guarantees for Ukraine, for the war to be freezed at the current front line. And if Russia starts the second stage of the special military operation, again accumulating the forces, attacking, there should be some of the circumstances, devastating circumstances for Russia and for its economy. With that deal, obviously, 88% of Ukrainians would agree. But what is currently presented is even worse than continuation of the war, just for you to understand. Giving up own territories, no one will do it. Well, those politicians like Trump, they call it swapping of the territories, but actually it's a gift to Russia. Hear Trump about the mighty Russian army.
That's what they do. They fight a lot of wars. A friend of mine said Russia's tough because they just keep on fighting. They beat Hitler, so did we, and they beat Napoleon. You know, they've been doing this for a long time.
Yeah, actually, even Orban called Donald Trump and told him that Russia never loses wars, but it is a bullshit. Russia won less wars than it lost. There are examples even from the last century. The Russian-Japan War, also the First World War, Winter War in Finland, then Soviet Union started the massive aggression but with heavy losses, forced to agree on some sort of the peace deal. War in Afghanistan, then Soviet Union withdrew their forces just like that after 10 years of war. Russia also lost the first Chechen War. There was the Khazavut agreements, really humiliating for Russia, were signed by Yeltsin. But then Putin started the second Chechen War with lots of the aviation, devastating cities. That's what they do in Ukraine, in Syria as well. Oh, by the way, Russia lost Syria too. So absolutely, they are not winning wars. And despite what is happening right now on the front lines, especially in the East, I'm sure that Russia will not win the war against Ukraine. Simply, it's not physically possible. Ukrainian society will never recognize Russian ruling over Ukraine. So the last chance to convince Donald Trump will be tomorrow on Wednesday. Then there will be the meeting between European leaders, Zelensky and Trump. There will be the call. So what is the best possible variant and the worst one? Well, the best possible is that United States apply more sanctions on Russia, plus secondary sanctions on the countries which continue to purchase Russian oil and gas, and some occasional military packages go to Ukraine. I do not expect more coming from the United States of America. The worst case is blaming Ukraine for everything, for not agreeing with wonderful Putin's and Trump's proposal to give up its territory and no more weapons from USA. And in a worst case, the United States will not allow European partners to even purchase weaponry for Ukraine. But I think it will not happen, because in this case, Donny will be the direct ally of the Russian Federation. I think that even for people who support Donny, it sounds too much. And you know what? It seems like there will be the pro-Ukrainian meeting in Alaska. It's gonna happen on 14th of August. the day before Putin-Trump summit, Stand Up Alaska. You may find it, I guess, on X, or it's better to say Twitter. So we are here to tell Putin and Trump Alaska opposes tyranny. As you see, my friends, Trump is the huge newsmaker still, for Ukraine especially. My friends, a few hours ago I uploaded this video, so unfortunately Ukrainian defense was penetrated on the front lines. Those are the eastern front lines. Now I have the new map. It's not the deep state military map, but more detailed information coming. I cannot disclose all of the sources which I used, but definitely the situation confirmed to be really not good for Ukrainian defenders. I just hope that it will not evolve into the worst case scenario possible, but for now Ukraine is unable to stop the rapid Russian movement. And actually, Russians penetrated the main defense line in Donbass. If you want to know more, just check out my video updates there. I film regularly about situation on the front lines, news, and special topics like, for example, today. In this video, I'm speaking about Donald Trump because it also matters a lot. Everything matters. Military support, the competence of the military and political leadership, everything. And my job is possible because of your support on Patreon. I'll put the link for my Patreon page just in the video description below. So if you want, you may support me through Patreon. And if you don't have this opportunity, just press your huge like to this video. By doing so, you also help me. And I wish you all a peaceful sky wherever you are, and have a great time.